So the topic today is, can men and women be just friends? And the reason that we're talking about this is because recently I've had a few people reach out to me, and Nicole's had a few people reach out to her, and they're like, so what's going on with you guys? Or are you dating? Or, you know, like what's happening? Like, people are asking me, are you moving to Texas? Are you coming back?
Moving to Baltimore?
Are you falling in love? Are you getting married? I've probably been asked, honestly, I don't even know. Probably at least 10 times, if not more.
Or more. People ask questions about like a ring on a finger, or all kinds of different questions.
Yeah, so we're like, well, let's go into it. Let's, you know, clear the air, but at the same time, let's talk about, can men and women just be just friends? And if so, how to do it properly. So first off, just to set the record straight, Nicole and I are not dating.
We're just friends.
We are just friends.
It can be done.
She is the executive director of City Fam, and she is doing an amazing job. Could not have chosen a better person for it.
I love it.
And I am the founder. I'm on the board of City Fam, and we are working very closely together. We've been together every day, I think, for just about the past 3 months.
I was counting it. I think it's like, so February, March, April, May, June.
So middle of February to the middle of June. So now what's that been? 4
months?
4 months.
Yeah.
4 months. So basically every day we've been together for the last 4 months.
Right.
She came to Baltimore a week before we went to the UK, and then we were in the UK together every day for a month, and then as soon as we got back, quarantine set in. I came to Texas and literally have probably left the house less than 10 times in 2 months.
Say, yeah, easy.
And
so that's like from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed.
Yeah,
working
every day, just grinding, and we're making really great strides. But so I want to talk to you about how to do this properly, because I don't think two people could be any closer than we've been over the last 4 months platonically. And we actually looked up the definition of the word platonic before we started this video, and
just to make sure we knew what we were talking about.
Yeah, and basically it says it's two people. Did you write it down?
I wrote two people who could, in theory, be romantically attracted to each other.
Or have a physical attraction, right? Two people who in theory could have a physical attraction. So like, if you're two straight guys can't be platonic friends because there's no physical attraction or potential for that there. Same with two straight women. Okay, so yes, platonic friendship, that's what it is. And that's what this is.
Did you know it's based on the word, like it's based on Plato?
Yes.
Who actually, so I just thought about that.
Yeah, that's exactly.
We didn't even talk about that.
And that's how it's spelled. So, first way we want to talk about is how platonic friendship can be done properly is, well, first off, even before that, I think the reason that people have reached out to me and people that have reached out to you is because it's difficult, right? So they're not like, a lot of times when people see someone that they don't necessarily know if they could do it, or maybe they don't understand it, or maybe they've never done it. They think, well, you know, how's that possible? You know,
or it's just not possible.
Or it's just not possible, because honestly, it is difficult, but it can be done if you are very intentional about it. And we've been super intentional about how we've gone about it.
We're going to talk about that too.
Yeah. So the first thing that we're going to talk about how we've done it properly is what?
Boundaries.
Yeah.
Yes. And we set those up really early.
Yeah.
So
Talk about those a little bit.
Well, I think the biggest one obviously is a physical boundary. And a lot of times we talk about that with girls, like set up this physical boundary. What are you willing to or not willing to do with guys? But I think guys, you talk about boundaries with men all the time, but setting it up inside of just the idea of a friendship doesn't seem like something we usually talk about, because you're just intend to be their friends. But because we knew that we'd be spending a lot of time together, we had that very open, very honest, here's where we know friendship begins and ends.
Yeah.
And so I'm really grateful we did that.
Actually, the first time I came down to Texas, this is last year, I, had not spent time alone around a female for years, probably 3 or 4 years at that point. So I came down with the understanding that, she had a roommate, Buzz, I think his name was, that lived here, and there was going to be 3 of us in the house. And for whatever reason, like the first night I got here, he decided to leave. So we're like, I'm like, oh shit, So basically what she did was she went to her neighbor's house.
I went and slept at my neighbor's.
And slept at her neighbor's house because he wasn't here. So like we've been very careful to make sure that, the physical boundaries were good, you know, like because at the end of the day, like you still got a man and a woman that are together, and the possibility exists for two people to make a mistake, you know.
Right.
All of us are you know, capable of any sin. I know myself. I'm very weak, and I need to put boundaries in place so that if I cross them, I'm not falling over the cliff. Like the boundary should be far enough back so that if you cross it, you're still not dead. You know what I mean? You still haven't sinned, let's say. So a lot of times people push their boundaries right up to the actual thing. Like my boundary is to not have sex. Well, that's not a good boundary.
No.
Your boundary should be that if you do cross it for some reason, that you're still safe.
Right. I like the bridge analogy. So if you're talking about boundaries with men and women, I like the idea of thinking about a bridge. And on either side of this bridge is water. And if you drive off the bridge, you're going to fall in, probably drowned. Something bad's going to happen. And there's guardrails on a bridge. Well, you don't bump the guardrail when you're driving. You stay on to the left or to the right of that guardrail. The guardrail is it's before you're going to fall in. And so we set those guardrails way far over. Yeah. So I'm glad we did.
Yeah. What? Any other boundaries you want to talk about?
I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed as we're talking about this is that there's a boundary in the way that we talk to each other. I noticed that he has a high level of respect for me and doesn't have certain conversations with me. We don't talk about things that we don't want to have to deal with. Like, we don't have sexual conversations.
No.
We really don't even talk about romantic relationships with other people. I mean, I think that's really important, especially for men. I'm going to talk to you guys right now. Girls' hearts are soft. We're tender. And so if you guys talk to us in a certain way that could ignite or light up certain thoughts and feelings, it doesn't help. It doesn't help the friendship.
And the thing is this is and I've done this. I've made this mistake before, where you call a girl baby, or you just like whatever. You do too many heart or too many of their texts, or whatever. And the thing is as human beings, we almost want to see if they'll reciprocate. Like we're kind of like, we might not necessarily want to be with that person, but we're kind of flirting around a little bit to see if they'll bite. And then what happens is, here's how it's came back on me before, is a girl will start crushing on you, maybe that you're working with, and then all of a sudden you don't really maybe want to date, you were just kind of playing around, and then you're a jerk, you're the asshole, and next thing you know, the friendship is damaged. So that's something you have to be very careful of, because when you've been single for a while, or maybe not even for a while, but it's easy to want that, to know that you still have it, that somebody's interested. So
I hadn't thought about that.
Oh yeah, for sure. So you have to be careful. And that is a boundary that I think we've done well, because it's just like we have a lot of respect for each other, but we haven't been flirty.
No.
So what else? What other
Thank you for that, by the way.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So tell me what else. What other things have we put in place to do well? We talked about
emotional boundaries. Again, I think this is another direct towards girls. We have this line of physical. Like, we know that if we cross this line, it's going to be hard to come back from it. But do we ever think that emotional connections can be the exact same thing? That once we go this far, it's hard to come back. So one of the things that I do is, because we do work so closely together, because we are in proximity together, girls, we get emotional. There's just those days, right? But I protect those emotional boundaries with him. I don't give him all of that. I don't let him inside all the way. Like, he gets to come this far, and that's about it. And so that's part of the girl's responsibility, is don't give them all of that. It doesn't help them either, because I think men naturally want to fix.
Yeah.
So if I come to you with like an emotional problem, you want to solve it.
Sure.
So just know that guardrail needs to be there too.
Yeah, that's good. So you want to talk about the next point?
Which one is the next point? Time? We talked
about communication.
Yeah.
Okay, so communication was one of the things that we've done well. So there are times,
my water.
rather than ignoring, the potential for elephant in the room, one thing we've done is we really communicated well with each other. There was a time when we were coming back from the UK, and I had sent her a text because it was hard in the UK, to be honest. It was rough, especially the second half, especially of the tour was rough, and it was hard. And I really appreciated her and what she went through with me, like to be there. Like she made some big sacrifices for us to do that tour, and I just sent her a really flattering text saying how much I appreciated her and a lot of her positive qualities. And she came to me on the plane and she's like, "Hey, look, let's talk about this. Are we
still in the same lane here?
Yeah, are we still in the same lane? This is just friendship, right?
Right.
And it was honestly, it was an awkward conversation. It felt awkward, not because it was just like, it was one of those uncomfortable things that you're like, you have to talk through. And we had another one probably just a few days ago at the dining room table. And it was awkward. It was the same feeling. It was uncomfortable, but at the same time, it was super healthy. So healthy. So good. I actually remember, now that you mention it, another time, we had gone to Phoenix together, and we left Phoenix. We had spent like 2 or 3 weeks in the same place, in Houston and Dallas and then Phoenix. And then I sent you a message telling you I missed you. And I got back to Baltimore, and you said, "Hey, are you catching feelings?" And I was like, "Wait, no, why? Why do you ask that?" And he said, "Well, you said you missed me." So like the honesty has been there for so long. And my answer was, I definitely miss you. I also miss my friend Molly when she leaves. Like, we're friends. Like, this is so good. So I think that's healthy. Yeah.
Like I think you really started that actually. So the transparency that you set up way ahead of time allowed for some of these other conversations.
Right.
So
yeah. And it is. It's different. It's hard to do it in the moment, but at the same time, it's like I'm trying to make sure that you and I stay friends long term, and we're able to work together,
do really cool things together.
Really cool things together.
We don't want anything to mess that up. Nothing.
So that's point number 2 is communication. And then the third thing that I think that we've done well, and that really enables a man and woman to be men and women to be just friends, is accountability. So we have done a very good job of talking to people that we respect, that have a voice in our lives, specifically Lori Lockamy, Pastor Lori,
and Pastor Kevin, my pastor.
Yeah, and just telling them, saying, "Hey, look, I think that it started where we actually got them together.
We brought them together. It was the 2 of us and the 2 of them, and we just had a very open and transparent conversation because we knew that we'd be working closely together and traveling."
Yeah, and basically, I think one of the things that Kevin said was, okay, if you wouldn't do it if you were married, don't do it now while you're single. So basically, if you wouldn't do that, if you were married, save that for them. Don't do that same thing with the person when you're single. Meaning, like, if you wouldn't, I don't know, give me an example. What was something that he said? I don't even remember the specifics.
I don't know that he gave an example, but the way that I ended up taking it, the way I internalized it is, eventually I want to be married. Like, I want that. And so the way he kind of helped me break it down was, if I didn't want my future husband to be doing that with another girl, I shouldn't be doing that with him, out of respect for your future wife.
No, and I actually pushed back on that a little bit, because I was like, well, I thought about it, and I'm like, well, look, I wouldn't want my wife going to a movie with a guy, But then again, her and I have gone to movies before, just friends, get off of work late Friday night, go grab a bite and go catch a movie. So I think that even falls back into that initial boundary point where it's like, it's probably a good boundary. It's probably one of those things, but it's also one of those things that if you cross it, is it really? No. I mean, is it wrong? Not really. Like if her...
It's the white line, not the guardrail.
Yeah, so if we were to go to a movie, well, maybe, I wouldn't want my husband, going to a movie with a woman, but I think it's a little different, because at that point, you have somebody to go to the movies with, you know what I mean? So anyway.
And I'm even thinking about like future. Like, I know he's going to get married one day, and I want his wife to have the utmost respect for me, and I already have the utmost respect for her. So I'm going to treat her husband just the way, like, as if they're already there.
Yeah. So what was the accountability thing? Did we have accountability with Kevin the other day? We talked to him.
We did, and I feel like that was really pretty perfect, actually.
Yeah. So anyway, we've talked through all this with people we respect, and the
We
thing
had
is,
accountability in places too. I think that's really important for everyone to know, that our accountability wasn't just in conversation. It wasn't just, hey, we want you guys to know what we're about to go do and where we stand and where our lines are, and we want to be able to call or text y'all or whatever. It was even more so like when we went to the UK, we had people that were in place to be around us and to be with us and to surround us. And they knew where we stood. We made it really clear that we're just friends. We have these kind of lines. And then even here, like you've been in Texas, we're not staying here at this house, just the two of us. There are 2 other people who live here. They know where we stand. There's just accountability in everywhere we are, every place that we go.
Yeah, so to sum it all up, yes, men and women can be friends.
Yes, the answer is yes, we can.
It's difficult at times. It takes some intentionality, but it can be done. But is it worth it? Absolutely. When I look at the people in my life right now, especially right now, but even leading up until now, that have really been the most impactful and are making the biggest difference in my life, many of them, most of them, are women. So if I wasn't able to figure this out and navigate this successfully, there's no way I would be where I am right now. And I don't know, you wouldn't be where you are right now because of you and I.
Right. I haven't thought about that, but yeah, absolutely.
So yes, it can be done. It just takes some intentionality, and it's worth figuring out.
Not only that, but you guys, I think there's so much value in friendships. Like the things that I've been able to learn from him, and like he's just created some progress in my life. And I can't imagine that if we had gone into this with any other intention, that we'd be able to get those kind of things out of each other, or even like push each other differently to go further.
Yeah.
So, my encouragement to you guys would be, find friends, find male friends, find female friends, but go about those relationships with intention. Like we talk all the time about friends with better benefits. That's exactly what we're doing. We did it. That's so great. Well, let's answer questions.
Okay, let's see.
I think there was a couple. I saw.
Let's see. Let's go back here and see.
Okay.
Okay. So we got Stacy Thomas said, "What y'all are doing is different dynamics. So whoever you would marry would have to accept the weird dynamic because of the nature of what y'all do." That is true.
And that's actually a conversation that we had. Believe it or not, that's part of the transparency and the way that we talk is we said, what areas do we need to make sure that we're making room for the person that we are going to eventually date?
Yeah, Julie Reiser said, do you think men and women can be friends if they had a prior relationship together? Now, it's a great question. It can be done. I've done it. It's just, it takes time. It's hard because if you're physical, then there is some bonds, biologically, oxytocin, I talk a lot about it. And when you pull away from the person, then somebody's getting hurt, if not both of you. So it's hard to go from that to just being friends. I know it can be done. I did that. I made a mistake with a girlfriend, when I was very far into my abstinence journey, and it almost cost me the friendship. But we were able to recover, but it took a couple months, and it was dicey, so.
Right. I want to speak to that too.
Sure.
Because I think from my perspective, like thinking about getting into a future relationship, for a lot of us, we're at an age where we've all had prior relationships, some kind of physical relationship with someone else. And the idea of getting involved with a man who's still good friends with girls that he slept with is definitely a caution for me. Like, what does that look like? And I think the relationship would really depend on what kind of, how does he hear you, and what kind of boundaries is he willing to set up in those relationships that he had that were prior physical relationships? Because like he said, there is a bond there, and you want to be aware of it. You don't want to just dismiss it.
Right. That's good. Okay, let's keep going. I think men and women can be strictly friends only if there is zero physical attraction on both ends. That's interesting, but that would almost have to mean that the two people are unattractive, because I think that you can be attracted to other things about the person besides physical, like the way they handle certain situations, their spirit,
intellect.
their brain, all that, and not necessarily feel like you want to jump their bones.
Right.
And I think it's possible to feel physical attraction to somebody, to want to jump their bones, but to know that it might not still be the person that you're looking for, and just to say no to that, you know, and still be friends. I think that is totally possible. It's just you have to be smart about it.
So
you know?
One of the things that I figured out, actually after going through one of Rob's courses, is like, what are my boundaries and why? And one of the things that I realized is that I think there's 4 different ways that we connect. We connect intellectually, we connect emotionally, we connect spiritually, and physically. And so if you kind of set up this way that you progress a relationship, the first thing that you do is you just become friends. Friends are usually intellectually connected. That's how they know that they get along, you know? You talk, right? And then the next thing is spiritual. So when you become best friends with someone, you're actually talking to them about things that you're wrestling with in life that might be a little harder. And that's really where a best friend comes in. Now, when you start to cross that next step, that's dating. That's when your emotional guardrails can come a little bit, they can come down. You start to test that person emotionally. Can they handle you? Do y'all think the same? Does it work the same? And then if you align on all of those, that intellect, that spiritual, that emotional, then you take it to that next step, which would be physical, because you're married.
Good answer.
Thank you.
All right. If you're watching and you haven't opted into City Fam yet, do it. Just go to cityfam.com, join the fam. We'll get your email address. You'll start getting, emails about everything that we have going on. There's actually a map now on the homepage. You can add your name and location to the map, and we will connect you with other like-minded people in your area. So literally, we have City Fams popping up in like places like Seattle, Columbus, LA, Dallas. What else we got?
Let's see. Recently, St. Louis, Missouri. Tennessee. Let's see. Kansas.
Yep.
All kinds of places.
Yeah, so if you're in one of those places, or you know
city.
somebody in one of those places that needs community, you can tag them, you can send them to the website, they can add their name to the map. Las Vegas, thank you, Angel Peterson.
Thank you.
Canada, thank you.
Look, these are our regional directors. They're stepping up.
If you're in one of those places, or if you're not in one of those places and you want a City Fam to be where you're at, you can start a chapter, or you can just add your name to the map, and when somebody says, hey, I want to start a chapter, we'll connect you with them. But this is a movement, and we're going to change the world.
A movement that is moving fast.
It is.
It's so exciting. I love this.
Yeah. All right, guys. Peace out.
Bye.